Hey everyone, this is Jamie. I'm sorry for the setup, or rather lack of setup. I've pretty much been rather tired this week, and I thought about pre-filming, but I was way too dead, and I couldn't really get to it. And I wasn't even going to release a video this week or in general, but I mean, like for this time period. But I figured that it's better for me to talk rather than to remain silent. So James Charles confessed to his how to put this soft to being a pedo, and then we've got the whole situation with David Dobrik's friends Dominic, and I am so sorry, I will not remember his last name out of principle. So what I wanted to say was, I found it very strange that everyone kind of focuses on David Dobrik rather than Dominic. It should be Dominicus, right? Because he's Lithuanian, but whatever. So basically, I was really kind of thinking, why isn't anyone blaming Dom? No? And then we have James Charles, who completely vanished with his allegations, and the thing that kind of prompted me to do this video is the usual, which really irritates me to no end, people being against toxic masculinity. So it kind of made me question, okay, so people say that toxic masculinity leads to many things, including rape, right? And I wanted to say, okay, and it leads like to negative behavior and etc. By negative behavior, I mean everything which lands from inappropriate touching to really bad gendering, different habits, different attributes which people happen to see as masculine. And people say that, for instance, why we should be against raising boys the way they are is because that can lead to toxic masculinity. And I wanted to say, but if we think that such a thing exists as toxic masculinity, and I'm sure every definition has its own sort of merit to an extent, but when people say, oh, I'm against toxic masculinity because it leads men to rape or to commit different crimes like pedophilia, for instance, right? So we have James Charles. I would really say he's like the opposite of what people consider toxic masculinity. And yeah, he's a pedo and no one's taking him accountable. Then we have Dominic, or whatever his fucking name is. I just happen to have a vendetta. Um, but enough about that. So I want to talk about Dom. So people aren't really focusing on the fact people are really picking everything else under the sun to point at David Dobrik and his entourage, rather than focusing on the fact that we really need to make sure that Dom really does get his jail sentence. Let's be real. And obviously there's a lot of talk whether how high the sentence will be, and I think we really should focus on the fact that we need to make sure that he does gets his what he deserves, really. But at the same time, I really think that James Charles should get what he deserves as well, because not only he has been proved problematic, and no one's gonna listen to me talk about transphobia apparently, or anything else problematic, but the fact that he's contacting minors on such a nearly daily basis and confessing to his crimes and saying that he can get away with it. And there's so many people calling him out on this, from Tati on her Bi Sister video, apparently. And no one is doing anything about it. So my point is, I'm gonna do a very short video where I am really exhausted about this whole toxic masculinity narrative, and I don't believe in it, because you can also have toxic femininity if you want to put it that way. You can have toxic females, obviously, and people don't want to address that. And people in general prefer to focus when it comes to female victims rather than male. And in general, if you look at history, the male shelters have been taken down by feminists, have been taken down by different radicals, and male victims do not get taken seriously. And specifically, when you know that your crime, the crime you fell victim to, won't be taken seriously, or you are less reluctant to go to the police, right? Right. And I wanted to say, so if people even have the courage to go to the police, will they be taken seriously? Like, what is the point of going sometimes to the police if you won't be taken seriously? And this is where I find, how to put this softly, I find a lot of American values very disgusting. And the whole idea about being against the police, yet reporting to the police and using the police whenever they feel, Americans, and specifically American women, whenever they feel like it might aid them in their, like, I've spoken enough about this channel, but Evan Rachel Wood, like, for instance, she did go to the police right now, and she is trying to sort out what's happening with Marilyn Manson and her in the past, well, what happens between them. And as far as I can see, she has no case. People are angry that she has no case. And I just want everything to go away at this point. I mean, if he is proven guilty with actual evidence, I will address it. But until then, I have no interest. Because I see this simply as another finger pointing ugly feminist thing. And also the other day I was checking a lot of things, and now people equate radical feminism to something trans-friendly, which it never was. And we really need to remember our history. So in general, as Americans are really raising a lot of history. And I feel really weird about that. I feel weird about toxic masculinity. I feel weird about people erasing history. I feel weird about so many things, and it's like when I was like sitting down to think about the video, I couldn't even choose the straight line to follow. So I guess this is just me rambling today, that I am very tired of the narrative which people are following these days. And I think if you are guilty, you are guilty, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of any fucking trait under the sun, if you're blonde or brunette at this point. And when it comes to privilege, it's not privilege, it's about your status in the community. And your community might be America, UK, Europe, Portugal, Spain, France, I don't know, Greece for all I care, Southeast Asia, Oceania, New Zealand, Antarctica. The point is, you will not be judged by the same standards sometimes. And people really fail to see that, as they kind of try to put on their little tinfoil hats and just decide that they will judge by what is considered wrong in their eyes, which is based on their American experience or their UK experience if we're lucky to even get such sort of variety. So I wanted to say that there are certain rules which we should follow, and they are specifically, for instance, a rough guideline would be what the European Union decides, right? In Europe, what's bad, what's good. Like when it comes to trans rights, LGBT rights, and specifically the pressure they put on like Poland and Baltic states, right? Right. So maybe I'm talking from a European perspective, but the more I look at American politics, the more disgusted I get. So my conclusion is America is disgusting. Thanks.